Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I still the same name, Jim, and still the same pronoun. So, just in case you were wondering, none of that has changed, and I haven't had to move out of the state yet, but we'll see what happens. I say that facetiously, but there's a lot of anxiety provoking things going on in our culture and our world these days, right? I mean, there always is, but sometimes it's more heightened than at other times. And the reason I mention it is because one of the themes I've come across lately is something that I didn't expect to come across when I was studying psychology in psychology school, and that is fear. You all heard that one? Fear? Didn't FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, say the only thing we have to fear is fear itself? He was right. Fear doesn't help a thing, it just makes everything worse. What happens is, if you look at the book of diagnostic manual, and you read all these different items in there and all these disorders they say that everybody has, you won't find the word fear. You'll find the word anxiety. You'll find the word depression. You'll find other things, but you won't necessarily find fear, right? And what that means is that fear is going under many different names. Fear manifests itself in many different ways, and we call those things the disorders, right? And we try to use various techniques to overcome those disorders. But if we get at the root of it, a person's afraid of something, if that's what's really going on, then we should address that. We can call it anxiety if you wish, and approach it as something that doesn't help and something that we can get rid of. Oftentimes, that's what it comes down to, right? Finding the root of whatever you're feeling. One of the things I've done a lot lately is I've passed out a piece of paper with the title Feelings List. And there are just hundreds and hundreds or dozens of different words that can be used in place of fear because they more accurately identify what's going on in a person. And if we can identify what's going on under the surface, we can find out where it started and hopefully figure out some way to eradicate it, right? That's what we're looking to do, help people feel better in life and get on better and to enjoy their lives, et cetera, et cetera. But fear helps people make wrong decisions. And by wrong decisions, I mean decisions that are poor choices for that person, right? Doesn't mean it's wrong for the next person. It just means it's not working for this person, right? And they chose it because they were afraid to choose something else. And that can lead to a lifetime of misery. I encourage people to go out and check things out in the world. I like to think of it as a plan B. At this point, I don't have any ideas of changing what I'm doing in my profession, my career, etc. But I do get notices from time to time from the various online job search engines advertising an opening in this clinic or that job or etc. Sometimes a lot of them are going online these days, which is what I'm doing anyway. So I'm familiar with all that. And I look at these opportunities and these offerings because I want to know what's available and what's in need at the moment, right? What are people looking for? What are agencies looking for services to combat, right? I want to find out what's there. And then if I ever do have to make a change in life, I know where to go and where to start looking and how to go about finding another position should I need one. And I just call that plan B. I'm making a plan, very, very gentle, easy way to go at it. I'm not spending lots and lots of time on it. I'm just glancing at the various job opportunities at any given time just to see what would be possible if I should happen to have to go find another position, right? So that's the deal. Just set up a plan. That helps me get through the current time, and if there's a worry that I don't have enough employment, et cetera, I have ideas on where to go to remedy that particular situation. But people are afraid of stuff. They don't want to. They don't like change. I don't either. I admit it. I don't want to uproot myself and go someplace else. I've often told folks, I said, I don't mind moving. That is to say, I don't mind living somewhere else, but I don't want to go through all the trouble of uprooting my house and taking care of all this that I've acquired, this detritus that I've accumulated over years. I don't want to deal with that. I said, if I was going to move, what I'd like to do is just lock the front door and drive away, leave everything in it, and just go start a life somewhere else. I don't want to deal with uprooting. That's the thing I don't like. Living someplace else is a possibility. Uprooting and taking care of all this is not a happy thought to consider. So I make plans. That's what I do, and I recommend other people do the same thing. I say, if things had to change and you had no choice of it, right? No choice whatsoever, what would you do? And they ask me why I would ask the question. I'm saying, just consider it. Because if you have options, we can dissipate the fear of what's going on right now in front of us. When we recognize that we do have options. Another thing to think about, I'll put it this way. My dad used to say, there's no point being afraid of life. Nobody gets out alive. Nobody gets out alive, so why be afraid of it? Go out and live it. The amount of time we have is not given. Nothing is promised. Nothing. Nothing is guaranteed. I think of a basketball player, famous basketball player, made hundreds of millions of dollars, and then after he retired from the sport, he was in a helicopter crash, and that ended his life. He didn't even have a chance to enjoy all that money that he made, right? Nothing is promised. Nothing is forever. We have to get out and live life right now. So what are fears? What fears are you up against and why? You know, I was talking to one gentleman. He came in because his wife insisted. She said, you have to go to counseling. There's something wrong with you and you need to get it fixed. I'm talking to this guy. I'm trying to find out, what the issue is between he and his wife and whether or not they should go to couples counseling. And he said, well, we've tried that. It doesn't work because it always boils down to she's not happy with me and what I'm doing, right? And what was he doing? The guy was a professional. He was pretty far up in a very successful company. He made a good living, etc., etc. He wasn't the top of the food chain, but he was certainly well off, right? And his thing was he didn't want to lose his job. He's afraid that he was going to be let go because as we get older, seems companies and corporations want to hire younger people because they get new ideas and they get those new ideas at a cheaper price, right? So he was afraid of that. And he wasn't anywhere near retirement yet, which is to say he had a way to go. He could stop working. He could have done it if he wanted to. But he was afraid of losing that job. And he kept telling me, what would I do if I lost my job? I said, well, go get another job. What's the big deal? It's not like you don't have skill. It's not like you don't have experience. You have all this stuff to build on. You have all this to offer, right? You can find other things. I told him, I said, look, I'm not telling you to make any change at all, but I'm going to suggest to you what I just told you folks right now. I said, go online and look for other possibilities, right? Just consider possibilities. There may be something out there that might please you more and please your wife more, right, than what you're doing now. Because what you're doing now is you're living in fear and it's affecting your family. By the way, I forgot to mention, their children were growing up and starting their own families. It wasn't like they had kids knocking around the house and you had to worry about clothes and dental appointments, etc. They were way past that. And he kept saying that he didn't think he could get a job. The wife wanted to move closer to family. She wanted to live a quieter life in a slower paced area. She wanted to get out of the city. I'm in LA here. Some of you may have heard of it. And then it may not be the worst city in the country, but we have our problems and we have our overcrowding and it affects everybody and everything. It's not pleasant even to drive down the street going to work. That was one of the complaints he said. He said, if I move out of the city and go someplace my wife might want to live, be closer to her family, he says, the commute would kill me. It'd be too far away. And I said, well, why do you have to commute? There's lots of different ways you could do this. You could offer to work online, or you could find a job in that area. I say, so what if you made less money? Your lifestyle would be easier, it'd be slower, you might be happier, you could spend more time with your wife. Now, he was so afraid of change that his wife was ready to leave him. She didn't believe in divorce. She wasn't going to divorce him. She was just going to pack a bag and go home and find a place to make her own life, find a job next to her family in that area, and go back to living a more sane existence. That's what she wanted. She was ready to walk out on him. Not that she didn't love him, but because she couldn't live with his fear of life. And there was no point to it. So I said to him, just go online. Just check out jobs in that area that your wife wants to live in. See if there's anything possible. See if anything would fit for you. Maybe something you would enjoy more than you're doing now. And you know the thing happened? He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't even go online, spend 5 minutes every other week just looking to see what was available in that area. He wouldn't even look. Um, that's when fear becomes debilitating. And so you can imagine something like that would take a whole lot of psychotherapy to figure out where that's coming from because it is unreasonable. I understand fear. I understand fear of losing a job. I understand fear of being homeless and all that. I get that. It is possible. Everything can be taken away from us in a moment, especially if you're on a helicopter. And I know that. But at the same time, I'm not going to live in fear of it. I'm going to live life until the life ends, right? I'm not going to let it stop me because things are possible. Yeah, a lot of things are possible, and a lot of good things are possible if you start making changes. His wife was going to walk out on him, and he still couldn't move. Man, I wanted to take the time and say, okay, let's find out where this is coming from, because like I said, this is unreasonable, right? We don't need to be that afraid of life. Let's just check things out. Let's just go see possibilities. Let's consider stuff. And around LA, a lot of people are leaving for a lot of reasons, mostly because it's too expensive, it's too crowded, it's too polluted. And so they're looking for better lifestyles elsewhere where they don't have to be so pressured and so up against all the stress of the big city life. But fear doesn't help. Fear doesn't help a thing. If we recognize that it's fear, I had a book around here, and I think the title was "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway," right? If any one of you remember that book, the entire message is in the title. You don't need to buy the book. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Yes, we know life is fearful. We got that. Now just set it aside, because whatever you're thinking in your head hasn't happened yet. You aren't fired. You aren't homeless. You aren't broke. You got a bank account that could carry you for another few years if you had to just decide to stop working altogether. So all these things you're thinking of are only in your head. They don't exist in the world, right? There are lots of possibilities in the world that people don't even avail themselves of. They don't even consider. They don't even look for. Let's go see what else there is. I might find something interesting to do. I probably mentioned this before in a previous post, but oftentimes it was said once that professionals in the United States of America change their entire careers 4 or 5 times in a lifetime. Their entire careers. People stop being lawyers and move up to Napa and open a winery, right? Other people go out to Wyoming and raise cattle or work on a cattle ranch or something. It always seems to be that way. People leave the stress and the uncertainty of lives of high tech and high stress and high pressure and go to slower ways of life, easier ways of life where they can enjoy their days and improve their health just by slowing down and relieving the stress, right? That's the way the motion always seems to go. I don't, well, sometimes you hear people say they quit a really good job and try to become a movie star. That's probably happened more than once. But most of the time, people want an easier way of life. The idea here is to consider options, have a plan B. Don't let fear stop you. Just say, okay, what is the worst that can happen other than, you are physically unable to do anything else in life? But if we're talking about calamity as far as job and employment, we're talking about income, et cetera, where we live and prices of things. Given the worst thing that can happen, what could we do in response to that? And if you have an option or several options, then you have your plan B, C, D, and so forth. You have choices. You can go do something else. Think of it that way. And sometimes it helps just to fantasize about other things we might do. That's fun. It's a good mental break from the stress that we all carry around. That is to say, those of us in LA, I don't know where you are, but people carry around. Let's just give ourselves a mental break. What's possible? Well, I could, buy a boat, sell my house, buy a boat, and sail down to Tahiti. Wouldn't that be fun? Just as a mental, it's a fantasy, a daydream, something to take us away from the fears that we're fearing now, and we consider other options. It is possible, though. You could buy a boat and sail to Tahiti, I guess. Bit of a hike, but whatever. It could be done if you wanted to. Consider the options. What would you really want to do? I heard a lady ask a guy the other day. She said, when you were a kid, what was it that you wanted to be? A cowboy? A cop? An airplane pilot, president of the United States. What did you want to be, And she was just trying to get him to remember what it felt like to be alive and to have a goal, a dream, a desire, or something that was exciting to that person. She was trying to get him to remember being alive. You start thinking that way and say, okay, I know how I got here. That is to say, I invite you to say that to yourself. You know how you got here. Do you want to do it again? Do you want to get back in the same position, maybe a different city, but the same sort of a job, the same sort of a stress? Or do you want something different? Being afraid of life does not help. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Set it aside, clear your mind, calm down. I've said this before, I'm going to remind you. One of the easiest ways to calm down is simply to sit quietly, close your eyes for a couple of minutes, and just pay attention to your breathing. There are a great many breathing patterns out there that I've heard and come across. I don't tend to do well with those things. We have to suck in the air for 7 counts and hold it for 109 counts and exhale for 4. And that stuff doesn't work for me. The easiest thing for me and a whole lot of other people is just to breathe naturally. If I sit very, very quietly and very comfortably and let my breath come naturally, I find that my breathing, first of all, slows down and becomes deeper and deeper and deeper, and that calms the body. When the body is calm, the mind calms down, then stop and say, okay, what are my options for plan B? Let's just knock all this noise and mental pollution out of my head and just consider the reality of the world. What could I do if I had to do something different? And those are your options, those are your possibilities. And you might find that they excite you, that it increases your interest in being alive all over again. Might give you something to start out for and strive for. A lot of people have done that. They've gone after avocations, things they like to do that they didn't think could bring them an income. They get involved in their avocation, the thing they like, and they find some sort of a way to make a living involved in that particular area. And then they get happier, right? But we don't want our partners walking out on us because we are too afraid to even open the internet and check for possible job openings in an area that we'd like to live. You can't even pull it up and look and see. Talk to a few people, do an interview, read a few things, articles, find out some information, see if it's possible, see if you'd like it, go visit the place. I'm talking to a gentleman who's flying around the country checking out different areas in which he might work. His priority is to find some place he wants to live. He wants to slow his life down a little bit, do the same job, that he's a professional, wants to do the same type of employment, but in a quieter, cleaner aired area of the world. So that's what he's doing, flying around on weekends here and there. He'll take a trip and go check an area out and check a job out and this and that. And I think he's very wise to do that. If he finds something he likes and he improves his life by taking that making that change, he's better off, and I'm happy for him. As for the guy with the fear, I don't know. I think his wife left. She didn't divorce him, but she took off, packed the bag, and hit the road. I'm not staying here anymore. I kept telling you I wasn't going to stay here for the rest of my life. We understood that before we got married. I wasn't going to live here. And now I'm going to take action on my own. If you're not going to come with me, that's fine. I don't hate you, right? We've got kids. We've got grandkids. I'll see you at the picnic. Just kidding, but not too much. Imagine she took off and left him, and he wouldn't even look at why he was afraid. That means nothing changes. I've gone on too long today. I apologize. Still the same name, still the same email address, by the way. If you want to send me some comments or suggestions or topics that you want to consider, send them to me, and the email address would be counselorscouch101@mail.com. counselorscouch101@mail.com, or leave a comment below in the comments section. And let me know if I can use your name in your situation or whatnot. Otherwise, I'll try to make it as abstract as I possibly can if it's an issue that I've heard from more than one person and want to address it. And by the way, don't think just because I mentioned something here that I'm talking about you. A lot of us have a lot of things in common. Human beings have more in common than they have in difference, right? So we all go through this stuff, right? King Solomon said that. We'll discuss that another time. I'm not trying to freak out people who don't like the Bible. Anyway, I wish you all a blessed day. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time.